Hello, beautiful souls. I am Antoinette. I'm going to read you a little bit of fairies. This is an introduction to fairy magic. Beautiful, beautiful book. This is by Elaine Clayton. And I love all of the different textures on each page. Here we go. I hope that you guys like it. We're in our little fairy area. And this is the introduction. Perhaps fairies and their ways have long been told of by quaint people in the days of old, or so it's thought to be. Many may have regarded such tales to be superstitious fancies, but to those who experience the phenomenon, fairies are very real and natural parts of our existence. There is a heartfelt way of living that recognizes that everything and everyone is interconnected. Therefore, whatever occurs on any given day holds true meaning, whether symbolic or literal. This meaning is the profound sense that we are not alone in our struggle to survive. Nature and uncanny events are familiar and common, in fact. Living with a sense of innate oneness provides time and again that there are unseen helpers permeating our natural world, urging all of life to thrive. And this is where a mysterious, mostly unseen fairy realm merges with our practical, physical world. Though fairy stories have been passed down for centuries, such spiritual entities among us are experienced anew. Every person with an inclination to acquaint him or herself with we folk find that those aren't just silly tales once told. They're accounts of ways in which spiritual beings reveal themselves to us. And with this general knowledge of the variety of fairies and their habits and traits comes the opportunity to claim them as one's own. This is so because fairies in our midst are unique as we are. As individuals, there are no two exactly alike. This book was written with the ardent wish for anyone who has reflected upon, heard about, felt, dreamed of, or seen fairies, or for anyone who wishes to become personally able to commune with them. As we delve into the spiritual essence infusing all growing life, we celebrate the benevolence and generosity of fairies whose radiance shines upon us. We commingle with nature for our very survival. Through tender saplings and spring-fed brooks, through noble trees and inscrutable mountains, fairies abound and reach for us to partake. They also caution us as we readily harm our environment without understanding. We cannot be sustained without it. Fairies are among us, appealing to our love of life and our will to thrive, to strengthen the interconnectedness that makes existence possible. Where we meet them is in the deeply mysterious aspects of life, through which fairies communicate and encourage us to abundantly prosper within our natural world. There they dwell, beckoning us. Come away, O human child, to the waters, wet and wild. That quote, W.B. Yeats. This is my first time reading this book, and I thought that it would be fun to go ahead and record it and that we could all learn some stuff together. Also, I do have some beautiful crystals that called to come out. My beautiful rainbow fluorite tower and my titanium quartz. Both absolutely beautiful, especially in the lovely sunlight. All right. Shall we continue? Chapter 1, Where Fairies Wander. How now, spirit? Whither wander you? Over hill, over dale, through bush, through briar, over park, over pale, through flood, through fire, I do wander everywhere. A Midsummer Night's Dream, William Shakespeare. Fairies are known to be a good people, a hidden and ethereal race of beings who appear as 3D as any human or hologram-like, colorful, mostly transparent forms of all sizes. Luminous and airy, they may even appear quite fully human, although often smaller and in some subtle way a bit different than an average-sized human, with very pointed elfin ears or large, mesmerizing eyes. Fairies are somewhere in a spiritual stratosphere between humans and angels, and by somewhere, I mean we can't quite be certain as to where they are in relation to us. Yet just as you read in the poem on the previous page, they do wander everywhere. We might sense them but not see them, or see them and question whether we actually did see them. They confound us. Fairies are intelligent, blithe, and fluid entities of light and color. And since they manifest presence of physical matter, so they appear to have a body, they are still able to flummox humans by disappearing at will. Folklore is rich in tales of such spirits among us. Theirs is a pure energy infused in nature, not limited to, but often emphasized and expressed through growing plant life, infusing the elements and almost any aspect of our universe. The path to knowledge of fairies is to approach all of nature with a deep sense of appreciation, gratitude with an affinity for the furtive, transcendental pulse of life permeating our natural world. It is to enter the dreamier, more mysterious aspects of who we are as living beings and what our universe is made of in its enigmatic greatness. Glimpsing into fairydom is to wish to perceive the fathoms of sea and sky, peer into the tiniest specks of pollen, pistons, and stands, gaze upon the prismatic wings of the dragonfly, to consider the way we humans are in awe of how all this life came to be. Meditation. Get into a fairy reverie. Outside in the quiet of day, whether you're in a city park or out in the wilderness, in a small garden or countryside, fairies abound. And here we are, everybody. In soft rays of sunlight illuminating tender tips of green leaves, a magical osmosis is underway. Verdant life spans life. Let's repeat that one. Verdant life spins life, and the hum of bees among birdsong coalesces with the mysterious and ethereal. Humans are born of earth and call it home, but it is also a place where fairies dwell at the edge of our sense of time and space, of solid matter and light energy, in the mystifying forces of life as it continually expands. No wonder so many children recognize this otherness, this parallel fairy world when they're out playing. It is spellbinding and strange, yet it is ours. We grasp it and alternatively do not grasp it. Children sense that life is not all as it seems on the surface until we coax and condition them to more practical applications. They understand immediately and naturally that our propensity and habit of labeling and identifying nature is superficial and may not be the actual most important aspect of experiencing the world. They feel the exciting air of enchantment, of unseen fairy folk. They may shout gleefully at bubbly sea foam tickling their toes, knowing each drop is a mist of knowing each drop of mist is a kiss from the fairy queen of the sea, and frolic with mermaids they sense are right there with them. Or they'll leap outside into a simple backyard with the undeniable, thrilling feeling that something amazing is about to happen, something magical. They are aligned completely with their imaginations, knowing it is very much a part of this great expansion of the life force and the pathway to the playscape of fairies. They know that there is a dream happening and that we are in it. Go there. Step outside into the dream that we call just an ordinary day. Watch the arabesque of a silky petal fluttering like a ballerina's skirt, and hear the soft whisper of the pines as you are beckoned to the threshold of enchanted terrain. You may only be thinking of internal woes or plans, or how good or bad the grass looks, or how many weeds need pulling, but you are in the presence of fairies and have entered their domain. You may sense this and fall silent unto yourself, looking around as if being observed somehow. A peculiar feeling may surround you. Open all your senses and allow yourself to sense the question lingering in the air. Breathing, feeling the way wind fairies play at mischief. Gathering blustered tree branches sway, their leaves tremble as they quietly rustle, or sensationally roar a fresh hypnotic message to you, through you. Fairies of trees, wind, leaves, flowers, and branches are in your midst and in your hair. They're moving through you, playing with you, reveling in their mysterious ways. And you're invited to the celebration. Being in and with nature nurtures us as we too are creatures of life meant to thrive. Simply being in and with this alchemistic, instinctive world might be enough if we did not sense the deeper mystery in it, opening us to the feeling of exciting potential and wonderment. The unanswered question we sense is the stirring of our innate curiosity and a longing within our soul. That part of who we are wishes to know how to intuit the spiritual messages of the wind and trees, the tiny grass blades and the leaves unfurling, reaching for sunlight. Isn't there something more that we cannot quite grasp? Don't we want to envelop the meaning held within the darkened bark of trees? Don't we wish to come to know the lovely contours of richly green moss patches on rocks? In our curiosity, we see life burgeoning as we ourselves ought to. The fairies seem to hold life-sustaining energy that supports us as we live and breathe. Fairies are part of this continual unfolding of life in ways we know not, or rather we realize there is much we do not truly understand, but we can feel it and sense it. We want to have knowledge of our natural world, of the land, the stars, and the tides, but even more so to revel in how it makes us feel as it powerfully draws us forth to swim, to play, to immerse ourselves as we once did as children. We climb summits to feel stronger, triumphant sense of self, and we explore caves to go deeper into what is not commonly known or experienced. Nature becomes symbolic of and entwined with our inner knowing and concept of who we are, and that inner knowing tells us the spirit of life is inherently one and the same as the fairy life. It is mysterious and ethereal, like us, even more than we are physical. Grab a sip of juice, the golden juice of life. or I'm going to finish it. All right. The realm of fairies is open when we allow ourselves a more fluid sensibility and acceptance of it. Simply being in and with nature to allow love to freely flow to and from our hearts, overriding our impulse to mentally control, characterize, and classify everything. Inhabitants of our environment beyond our textbook labels will tell us who they are if we listen and watch with a hint of expectation. This is not a mental process so much as an intuitive opening through creative, imaginative interplay with nature. However, this is not to say that fairy ways are only whimsical or trifling. Fairies are fun, yes, and jocular and frolicsome, yet in their way they are very serious, somber, and tempestuous. They're as changeable as the weather. Inwardly, we know we must respect nature and the power within it to aid us or destroy us. Fairies are one with this natural momentum of the elements as we watch it do what it does. Fairies are playful and high-spirited, but not to be disregarded. As has been passed down through time, we know not to tick them off, these fairy folk. There is mischief in them when we do. They are not just passive presences. They are prevailing life force energy that we cannot deny. And yet, their elusive being engendered into fairy wisdom takes a willingness to open and develop the inspired, visionary, artistic, and mystical mean of our human essence. We need a little bit of daring and a lot of friskiness mixed with quite awe to engage properly with fairies. Fairies are entities that baffle, confuse, delight, and even aggravate, agitate, and throw tantrums until they get their way. They are the energy of the will to thrive, and that's spunky. Fairies are helping life prosper by aligning with it to funnel beauty and longing and love into each living particle. Watch anything grow and you will recognize it. You'll see tenderness, innocence, and also a dauntless presence of flourishing zeal. All growing life knows no other than to strive to prosper. Fairies are made of this abundant spirit of life. Look at a leaf as the sun bathes it. The leaf is more than willing to receive all it needs and asks for nothing less. The sun gives all it has to boldly give. This is the same simple determination to blossom, bloom, and triumph. This same simple determination to blossom, bloom, and triumph is fairy essence. For this boldness, fairies are often seen as demanding and spoiled, full of spite if less than desired is given. Fairies, in their machinations, want what they want. A fairy will demand whatever it may need to survive, and anything else it wants is expected to be given for optimal blossoming and more, or else. Fairies by day, fairies by night. Fairies are best seen, they say, at twilight, the time that is no longer day, but not yet night. Time itself, with its mysteries of light and shadow, as it influences our earthly orientation, becomes a portal into otherworldly dimensions and affairs. Such arcane activities of fairies vary from day to night, with many accounts of fairy sightings describing the strangely haunting rituals performed in the dark of night, such as gathering in a ring and dancing, or the queen of the forest calling out all her court to entertain her alongside animals and in the light of the beaming moon. Fairies have been seen merrymaking in radiance under a star-dappled sky in a hazy moonbeam glow. or walking and dancing, wailing and shrieking across rocky coasts, moors, or plains, banging shutters and rattling window glass on dark and stormy nights. There are all kinds of fairies, and they each have their ways, so exploring them is actually very exciting. But first, let's determine how a fairy differs from other spiritual beings, because they are unique and in a role somewhat different from angels. And that brings us to chapter 2. There we have it. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of A Little Bit of Fairies. And I'll see you soon for chapter 2, Fairies and Angels. I'm sending you so much love and light. Thank you for joining me in my little fairy area. I'll see you guys soon.